with us here on ETNow, and you're watching this special show, Super Achievers Making New India, powered by Voicewhat. Today, we're turning the spotlight on CICO, and I've caught up with the chairperson and managing director of CICO, Anshua Gupta, to talk about the company, the growth trajectory, as well as how they've managed to stay relevant in changing times. Do take a look.
Adding life to structures and building your dreams, CICO, a trusted name in the construction industry, has been serving its customers for the past 87 years. Founded in 1930 by Mr. N.R. Gupta, a mining engineer, CICO has been at the forefront in the modern waterproofing system in India. Known for impeccable quality and reliability, CICO offers a comprehensive range of end-to-end permanent solutions for industrial, architectural and general construction. They have produced groundbreaking, intelligent and consistent construction chemicals that make building projects not only safer but also environmentally viable. Their product portfolio includes a range of protective coating solutions, waterproofers, concrete admixtures, repair compounds, grouting compound and industrial flooring. With an aim to deliver sustainable value propositions to all its stakeholders, CICO truly lives up to their company ethos of future-proofing what is built.
Thank you very much for speaking with us here on ETNow.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Let me start by asking you about the brand of CICO and how that has really changed over the last 78 years.
So CICO, a brand, as we all know, was founded by my husband's grandfather in 1930, and till the late 80s, I think CICO was a monopoly here in India in the construction chemical segment, and we did just waterproofing at that point. And then from 1988, a lot of the multinationals started coming in to the country. And over the years, I think many more products were added to the basket, giving it a wholesome construction chemical company. And then in 1999-2000, we branched out of the mother company, but with the brand CICO, to form CICO Technologies Limited, which my husband did. And since then, we've been here now, it's what, 17 years?
Okay, so let me talk about then your own involvement with CICO. And you came in at a time when the company was facing, if I can call it that, a bit of a crisis. You were also going through something personally, but you had to step in and take over the reins of the company. Do you want to talk about what that phase was like?
Yeah, so 2008, as we all know, my husband passed away, and I don't think I had to, because it was a choice I made to come in and run this organization, primarily because A, it was a legacy that I felt that I needed to do something about. Also, there were many families which were dependent on CICO. So it was just something that I didn't think too much about.
Let me talk then about what it was that helped you understand the business even more. You know, you were someone who came in from the outside, so to speak, and completely immersed yourself in the business. What helped you settle in? What was that learning like?
Okay, so when I came in, so what I lacked really in knowledge and experience, I tried very hard to make up in other factors. To me, at that point, one of the biggest factors was to develop HR policies and have the CICO team behind me. So it was important for me at that time to actually instill some sort of confidence through HR policies in the organization, which I think worked. I had a fantastic support system within CICO who actually stood by me, and I'm ever thankful to them for believing that this company could go forward with me in the leadership role. From 2000 to 2008, we were not IT dependent at all. So what I thought and I did, and not that I'm a huge technology buff, but I did bring in,
it was necessary.
It was absolutely necessary. So what we did bring in was a lot of IT and business intelligence tool structures where we as senior management team could take near real-time decisions and analyze the data.
I want to talk about the environment in India, and let's talk about the economy and the biggest changes that we've seen over the last 10 years, let's talk about your own journey ever since you've taken over the company. The way business is being done in India has changed over the last 3-4 years. The government has been bringing about a lot of rules which are also in turn changing the way business is being done. What has been the biggest growth driver and how have you been able to adapt to the changes we're seeing?
Firstly, I'd like to say that infrastructure is the backbone of any economy, anywhere. And the government in the last 3-4 years has given it a massive push. There's almost 4 lakh crore, I think, funds allocated for infrastructure development. So be it roads, be it affordable housing, be it power, be it smart cities, the world really is an oyster for us who are feeding the construction industry. But what I'd like to see really is that more projects opening out on time, so that fund allocation being utilized, and therefore the projects taking off on time and then finishing off on time, because that's the only thing that would help companies like ours to grow in this segment.
I want to talk about funding itself to your industry. Are you seeing funding, and has funding now become better after we've seen, say, demonetization, and therefore lending to the sector has changed?
I can't talk about other companies. I can only talk about CICO. I think we have managed with our own funds, and so far we haven't done too badly in that. But of course, for growth, and we have great plans of, really growing this company, going into different sectors and segments. But how are we to do that until and unless the funds are released from the projects itself?
Okay, so the other part of it, of course, is ensuring and enforcing that your vendors pay companies like yourself on time. The MSME government does have a modality under which it ensures that MSMEs get paid on time by their vendors. Talk to me about your own personal experience there.
So we follow that. However, it has to be much more clearly defined and executed. The definition is there, but I think there is still a lot of loopholes and many more levels before it's actually executed. So I'm not really seeing it completely implemented in the way that I'd like to see it.
Okay, so then your advice for MSMEs, because we get a lot of MSMEs who write to us, call us and say that we are being forced to pay for, say, for example, the raw materials that we get on time.
Yeah.
But then when you're working with a vendor, getting them to pay you on time is difficult, so we're stuck.
Absolutely.
What's your advice to them?
I don't know what I really have very little to say, because I think we need to form a group, because the MSME is pretty much the belly of every government that we know, and I think the government needs to give us a little more hearing and see how we can get together and push these things to be regulated, defined, and then implemented.
To hold that thought, we'll take a very quick break, but on the other side, we'll continue talking about government regulation, particularly GST and demonetization. Welcome back. You're with us here on Super Achievers Making New India, powered by Voicewhat, and today I'm in conversation with Ansuya Gupta, the chairperson and MD of CICO Technologies. Let's talk about government regulation, and I particularly first want to talk about GST, because that is what every company across every industry is talking about right now, is being affected by right now. The biggest impact that your industry is seeing out of GST, it is still early days, but how have you prepared for the change, and your advice for MSMEs in your industry who are watching this interview about how they can prepare for it?
Firstly, we were very well prepared. I have to say that, because I think we prepared ourselves from January. GST, again, is something that we were looking forward to. It's a good thing.
Has it been all positive?
I'm not sure whether it's all positive or not, but I think it's a good thing. But what is bothering us is, the number of returns that one needs to file to ensure that, we are following all the GST norms. And that is becoming, and I think will become, very cumbersome in the days to come, because there are many more. Having said that, I think it's something that we need to take on, heads first. Secondly, the month of June was bad for us. And now, because obviously nobody was taking stocks across industry, it's not a question of just us. So, and then we have to see how others have actually registered, not registered for GST, and then, whether our vendors, our suppliers, everybody at that process, because we're all tied up. So I'm waiting and watching to see how July, August and September pan out. I think we will see results from October about this, and I think the best way to do this really to all of us is that we need to be compliant. As long as we are compliant, and every one of us are compliant, I see no reason why it shouldn't be a successful venture.
Let's talk about demonetization. November of last year is when the government dropped this bombshell on the economy and said they were taking it through the demonetization route. How much of an impact has that had on the industry first, and then talk about CICO as well?
Huge, because there was a parallel cash economy. There was no question about that, and suddenly overnight that went, and so everyone was impacted, especially the real estate segment, and the real estate sector is a big part of who we supply to. So all your plans and your strategies suddenly had to do a downturn and make changes and do course corrections in that aspect. I think they're still sort of trying to get their nose above water.
So then let's talk about some of those changes that you're talking about in terms of moving away, say for example, from the real estate space, being so focused on that into other areas. And I want to talk about how you've been able to move the company forward by looking at new geographies, looking at new verticals and segments, and what the plan is for the future.
So from real estate dependence, I would say, we've moved a little more into focused a little more on infrastructure. Increased our distribution network, and which means that we go into the retail segment. So that's helping us a little bit. And as far as the future and the growth is concerned, of course, new geographies is what we are really keen on moving into, because we have been a very conservative organization, and we've done very steady growth, and we've been very mindful of areas that we've gone into. So now we are exploring possibilities of newer areas, geography areas, where we can actually sort of put ourselves out. The other segment that I'm very keen on working is that infrastructure is very labor dependent, and I can see actually a massive Skill India project really happening in this segment, because if we can have trained applicator network who then will be skilled workforce to have better structures that they go out, not just with the products but also better structures, the government spend on repair, maintenance, etc. is going to be halved or reduced. Exactly. And so and yet we are also riding the wave of Skill India. So that's what I'd like to see in the future for CICO.
Okay, you're talking about Skill India. I want to take that point forward, but just before we come to that, talk to me about Make in India, its counterpart. How do companies like yourself tie in with that? Because the government is really ambitious. They're pushing very aggressively as far as infrastructure goes, and as well as Make in India. How much of that have you seen on the ground for you at CICO, and what is the way forward there?
I'm very gung-ho about it and very proud about it. Most MSMEs, as you would know, are family run, family grown, and Indian family grown, and especially in this country. So I'd like to ask the question that, all things being equal in a level playing field, your products, your services, your quality, your pricing, everything, what is that extra edge that a company like ours, our size, across industry will get to put ourselves to be the first among equals, to help us stand tall? Because this is what is going to...
some sort of incentives or benefits or subsidies?
No, preferential, just a preferential. I don't think any subsidies or incentives are necessary. It's just a question of...
What is the form of that preferential thing that you're talking about?
As I said, if all things are equal and we are bidding for a project, would then the government consider a homegrown Make in India company
versus a foreign company? Okay. Would that in some sense go against the principles of free markets in your opinion then?
I'm guessing, but isn't it a dichotomy in any case? Isn't it a controversial situation that we are facing? I'm only talking about the Make in India, because how else then are we, I mean, what's the mechanism then for companies like ours to be global players if we are not given an opportunity to really stand tall in the country itself and then take this platform to the international market?
Sure. Let's talk about Skill India. And the industry that you're in, infrastructure, real estate, both of them are heavily dependent on manpower, and not just manpower but skilled manpower. Yeah. What is the situation in your industry? How do you get access to skilled manpower? Do you undertake any sort of training for employees who come in, and how important is that?
So there are different levels. One, as I said to you, the applicator network, the masons who actually do the work. The second bit are the engineers and the ones who are specifiers. How do they know what is the right product at the right time to go into the industry? I would say the biggest factor really is the managerial segment, if you're talking about skilled manpower, because I know when I came in 2008, it was pretty much a struggle to put a great A team in place. And I'm very happy and proud to say that we've managed, with in-house training and everything, to have a really great second line, which is a team in place. And then it goes down to the third level and the fourth level, who then know how to manage the manpower which is below them.
Okay, I want to talk about CSR. And round this interview off by talking about corporate social responsibility. First and foremost, what is your own philosophy and what are your own thoughts about CSR, and how companies which are in the public space should actively talk about CSR?
I think every enterprise is, to me, a social enterprise. Whatever we do and whatever our products are, whatever the application is, finally goes into structures which need to be durable, which need to be reliable, which need to be trustworthy, because who does it impact? It impacts people like you and me. Quality is something that we cannot compromise on, because finally it impacts society.
So that's a very unique way of thinking about CSR in terms of the quality and the products, and it being a social enterprise, any business at its heart. What do you do at CICO? You do have the Amit Gupta Foundation. Maybe we can tell our viewers about what you do under that.
Okay, so Amit Gupta Foundation started in 2009 primarily because for 15 years I've been in and out of hospitals watching the despair of people who had no knowledge, no resource, trying to get organs for their near and dear ones to survive. So in Amit Gupta Foundation, what we do is that we do go out and we do give presentations and talks to corporates, to education institutions, to things like governing bodies, institutions, where we can actually make those presentations on how important it is to pledge our organs. We work very closely in the health and the education segment for the underprivileged, and we also employ severely disabled people here, so that it's an empowerment for them to go out into life. And in CICO, the senior management team spends 1 hour a month of their working time to devote to certain institutions where we go and teach, where we go and play with the children, where we go and try and help them. But it's not money, it's their time that we devote.
Being a woman in this industry, what have been the opportunities and what have been the challenges?
I think the opportunities are equal. Challenges, I would say, I'd really like to have been onto the project sites to see for myself firsthand what's happening, learn about it. Now that's a bit of a challenge for me, because the infrastructure in the project sites are not there for women to really go out, and the infrastructure, by that I mean whether it's staying facilities, whether it's washroom facilities, and I faced that myself. The basics are not there, and that's basic sensitization that we need to do that. And I think that's also one of the reasons what's keeping more women out of this infrastructure segment, because how do you learn and how do you grow if you don't know it firsthand on the ground? So, I mean, that's one segment that I'd like to see much more work happening.
Okay. Let me end this interview then by asking you about what your own philosophy has been towards work, and anything that someone has either told you or that you've learned which has changed the way that you approach business, which has changed your ideologies or thought processes.
Okay, firstly, I think I've had a great education going to a school in Calcutta, which has really laid the foundation of various principles that I operate with today. In CICO, I mean, we go by the 3 C's. A very strong commitment, because I believe that every one of us, in whichever field we are, if we've accepted a particular job or a role, it's a commitment to that job or to that role. The second bit is the communication. So much is lost because we don't communicate with one another. So I think communication is the second C of my principle, because in communication, whether it's written or whether it's verbal, body language, with internal customers, external customers, it's the key to keep the conversation flow and going. And of course, the third is the teamwork, which is cooperation. We have to cooperate and be together as a team, inside and outside. We call it the CICO family, which includes their families as well. So we have this very clear thought in our mind that what is it that we want? We want every one of us in CICO and their families to flourish. That's the purpose and the goal we have, much less the profit margins and everything else. So
thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you so much. If you have anything that you would like to tell us or want to get in touch with us, you can always email at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com. You can call us on that number you see on your screen. On Twitter, you can tweet at LOT_ETNow or Sunanda_J. That's my personal Twitter handle. Or reach us on Facebook on Leaders of Tomorrow on ETNow. That's our Facebook page. We love hearing from you, so do get in touch. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.